this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. It means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Glad you're spending your Monday with us. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Maybe not after what we watched on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. We're talking about it for the next couple of hours. Saints got a big win yesterday, snapped that skid, had some fun in the process, which is probably a good thing for everybody involved in that organization at the moment. Got SEC football to talk about. My picks actually went pretty well on Saturday. It was really all that went well for an LSU fan on Saturday. So we'll start there, and we'll start the same way we do each and every day with our opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Well, 2 weeks ago, LSU got caught flat-footed with the quarterback change, and Marcel Reed came into the ballgame in College Station. Everything changed. LSU could not stop him. The turnover bug showed up again, and LSU got run off the field in the second half in Kyle Field. But you can kind of understand how that could happen. Saturday night, LSU had 2 weeks to get ready for Alabama. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Jalen Milroe running the football. They had 2 weeks to prepare for an Alabama defense that has been fine in SEC play. They had 2 weeks to set the stage for the biggest game of the season to continue on towards their goals that were set in August. And LSU flat got annihilated. In every phase of the game, from the start to the finish, LSU was almost completely non-competitive. And that is unacceptable. It was an unacceptable performance on offense. It was an unacceptable performance on defense. It was simply subpar across the board. And that is remarkably disappointing for a team that has done some good things this year. But they didn't do any of them in the game on Saturday. I don't quite understand the dynamics of this Alabama rushing attack and what it did to LSU on Saturday. It's easy to say, well, you didn't leverage here or there. Well, you had a wrong play call here or there. Well, Alabama executed really well. Well, he's as good at running quarterback as there is in the country. Like, you can toss a lot of those truths out there to patch it together. But I don't understand how Jalen Milroe can be off to the races nearly every carry against an LSU team that absolutely knew that was coming. I just don't understand that. Alabama did not run the football like that on Vanderbilt. They did not run the football like that on South Florida. They did not run the football like that against Tennessee. They did not run the football like that really against South Carolina. That has not been there every single week. I would understand if there's some freelancing stuff that's going on and you just don't have the athletes to go tackle him. And that's kind of what happened last year. But this is design stuff that you knew was coming. And LSU was completely and totally ill-prepared and completely and totally incapable of providing any resistance from start to finish. And I don't really get that. This group has played some good run defense this year. And sure, he busts the first one for a 30-plus yard touchdown. Well, I hate that, but, it's going to happen. He's a really good player, and they called a good play and made it work. But you would think at some point LSU would make an adjustment or make a play, figure something out. Nope. His second to last carry of the game went for more than 70 yards and a touchdown. It was just whenever he wanted it, wherever he wanted it, he got it. And again, I just don't really fully grasp that. If he had done that to everybody, like I get that why Clemson couldn't stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like, nobody did. Just didn't happen. I get why Oklahoma couldn't handle that LSU offense because they just did that to everybody. Alabama doesn't do this to everybody. LSU's got enough dudes on defense to provide the same type of resistance Vanderbilt did. They can provide the same type of resistance that some of the other teams on Alabama's schedule provided. South Carolina, namely, in the recent past. And they just didn't. 12 attempts, 185 yards. And I mean, you just listen to the totals on his rushes. 39. 5 for a first down. 7. 5. 6. 4. 22. 10 more touchdown. 19 touchdown. Gain of 1 on a keeper, finally. 72. Like, every time he wanted to run, they got 5, 6, 7, or 70 yards. It's difficult for me to comprehend. And it was from start to finish. And that, to me, was the biggest story in this game. I can talk, and we will talk over the next 20 minutes about LSU's offense and the lack of execution and the turnovers and how difficult it was potentially to play in the rain and some of that stuff. We can talk about the fact that Jalen Milroe did beat you early in the game, especially on third downs from the pocket. That's not something that I could have forecasted coming. But you knew that they were just going to run it and that Milroe was going to be a big piece of that, and LSU just had no answer. I get it if UL Monroe doesn't have an answer. I don't get it that LSU doesn't have an answer. And it was the same thing you saw last year. Over 2 games against LSU, Jalen Milroe goes for 330 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. I want to move on and talk about some of the other things. I want to talk about the fact that Alabama got 10 of their 13 third down conversions. I want to talk about the fact that LSU lost time of possession, the yardage stick, the turnover battle, the scoreboard. I want to talk about all that. But there is nothing that was more impactful, disappointing, and noteworthy as the quarterback run game. Because Brian Kelly literally said in the moments after LSU played Texas A&M, I would probably run the quarterback on us. Like, you know they had to have worked on that and repped that time and time and time again for 2 weeks. And the first time Jalen Milroe kept the ball, he went for a 35-yard touchdown. Everything was in front of you. The stadium was awesome, even in the crappy weather. And that crowd stayed in the game the entire way into the middle of the third quarter once it got to be 4 scores. Like, even at halftime, when things looked pretty bad, it was 21-6. And I thought, man, the rain's picked up. Probably not going to be a full house when they kick it off in the third quarter. And I wouldn't say it was a full house when they kicked it off in the third quarter, but the crowd was live. And LSU got that 4th down stop, and the crowd went nuts because you thought, okay, you got a chance. And then you immediately fumbled the football away. You had 2 chances to really make it a game. And Nussmeier threw the pick from the 5, and then he fumbled the play after LSU had gotten a big 4th down stop. There's just nothing ever to get excited about if you're an LSU fan. But the crowd was there. LSU just couldn't stop Alabama. 420 yards of offense, only 109 of those came on the ground. Bama runs for 311 yards on the ground, 6.5 yards per carry for the game. Alabama averaged 6.4 yards per play. It really looked like at a time, really 2 weeks ago, that LSU had what looked to be a competitive playoff-bound team. When I looked back at the 8-minute mark in the third quarter against Texas A&M, you look at that point, you've got a team that has gone on the road and beaten South Carolina, who's playing great football right now. You look at a team that went toe-to-toe with Ole Miss and came out on top. Ole Miss might be the best team in the SEC. And you had a team that was on the road in Kyle Field, taking on a top 15 opponent, with first place in the SEC on the line and was dominating that football game. That's where we were midway through the third quarter 2 weeks ago. And since that point, you lost 31-6 to Texas A&M and 42-13 to Alabama. That's 73-19. You've been outscored over those 6 quarters. It is shocking how this thing flipped on itself from the Garrett Nussmeier interception against Texas A&M, where they got run back into the goal red zone, and then Marcel Reed came in. You were looking like a team that could win the Southeastern Conference and play in the playoffs, and you now are a team that's getting reasonable questions in the Monday press conference. Are you okay with where the direction of the program is? That's how drastic this thing switched over the last 2 weeks. And it's way, way disappointing that we're having that conversation now instead of rummaging through potential playoff scenarios. But you don't deserve to talk about the playoff right now when you get beat 42-13 on your home field in front of a packed house by a team you had 2 weeks to prepare for and had no answers on either side of the ball for. That is really disappointing. It was a disappointing night inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday. Alabama wins it 42-13. Talk a little bit more about this in the next segment. We'll hear some sound from Brian Kelly in the next segment as well. I want to talk about LSU's offense, which we didn't really talk about in this segment, but I feel like it needed to take a back seat to a defense that just couldn't get off the field on Saturday. So we'll do that. That was our opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge. We'll be back with more on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. When you think Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury. It is absolutely a luxury brand of vehicles. And when you think luxury vehicles, you probably have a few brands that float around in your mind. Genesis may not be one of them. It's fairly new to the game, certainly new to their location, Airline and Pico in Baton Rouge. But think about them. Give them a shot. Stop on by. I know that you will be impressed by the dealership. It is a first-class facility, first-class operation over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Chat with one of their brand ambassadors. They'll get you behind the wheel of one of these cars, and you'll see the style, how sleek it is. You'll see the safety features, and you'll be blown away with a Genesis. Genesis of Baton Rouge, as I mentioned, Airline and PQ. Every single new Genesis purchase comes with a 10 years, 100,000-mile warranty, and comes with 3 years of complimentary maintenance as well. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, moving along here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Talking Tigers and Tide from Saturday night. Disappointing performance all around from LSU. And Brian Kelly said after the game that LSU did not live up to its standard. It's number 4 back if we could play that, and I think everyone would generally agree with that assessment.
They're disappointed. We're disappointed in the way we performed. These guys are not like, hey, we're out of the playoffs. They're disappointed, and I'm disappointed that we didn't live up to the standards of LSU football. That affects us more than the damn playoffs. We're disappointed. When you put on the jersey for LSU, there's a standard of football that those 3 letters on your jersey, it's a prerequisite. And we didn't live up to that. That's the disappointment.
Honestly, in Brian Kelly's 2.5 years in Baton Rouge, this one feels different than really any of the other losses. I thought that that 2 years ago, Tennessee was a significantly better team than LSU at that point. That Hendon Hooker offense was just high-flying, and they were executing at an elite level. And I don't know that I thought that LSU didn't show up for that game or that they just did not live up to the standard. I thought Tennessee just came in here and put it on you. Last year against Florida State, Florida State had a really good team last year. Malik falls down and you throw a pick there. You had a key drop by Kyron on a 3rd down that maybe you go down and get some points. I mean, they got beat, but I think Florida State was a little better than LSU at that point of the calendar as well. And I think Alabama's got a better football team than LSU does, but they're not nearly that many points better than LSU, in my opinion. It's an opinion, and it certainly isn't backed up by any statistical fact because everything went the way of the Tide on Saturday. But I just felt like that was as disappointing a performance as you have seen from a Brian Kelly team at LSU. Now, there are plenty of people that are pretty loud, Saturday night, Sunday, into today, talking about the state of the program, talking about the right or wrong coach, talking about the quarterback. Like, there are a lot of people talking, and that's what happens when you got a passionate fan base and you lose the way that they did on Saturday. I'm not ready to have many of those conversations, but I'm not going to brush this one aside. Like, this was dejecting to watch because Alabama hasn't imposed its will on anybody like that, save Missouri with a backup quarterback and Wisconsin. And they just came in and shoved you around inside Tiger Stadium, which was super disappointing. I talked a lot in that first segment about LSU's struggles against Jalen Milroe. Brian Kelly talked about it on Saturday night.
If you're watching the game, you're like, what did these guys do for 2 weeks? Like, we have a scheme to stop the quarterback. We did not get that done. So I take responsibility for it. Blake is not going to hide from the responsibility, but we also have to put our players in the right position, too, to take advantage of what they're capable of doing. So we own it together, and we've got to get it fixed.
There are so many thoughts I have when I listen to him say that. I want to kind of lean towards, well, maybe they just don't have the guys. But neither does frickin' Vanderbilt. And Jalen Milroe ran for 20 yards on them. So I can't necessarily pin it on that. And you got to execute better, and you got to call better plays, and you got to prepare better. Just everything's got to be better. But it's odd to have watched that because it hadn't happened all year to anybody else. So I'll kind of leave that conversation there and then move to the LSU offense. A lot of people were disappointed in the play calling early in the game. I got that on Twitter. We got that in our post-game show. I've had conversations with people who are LSU fans since that time. A lot of people were uncomfortable with the way that the play calling rolled out in the first half. And it was very high percentage. It was a lot of throws around the line of scrimmage. They didn't stretch the field a ton. And I'll be pretty candid about my feelings on that. I think they were playing a little bit more conservatively because of the weather. I don't have anything to back that up at all. It's just my opinion. Being in Tiger Stadium, now I was in the comfy, cozy press box. I wasn't braving the elements with a lot of you, but I could watch it, and I could see the rain. And LSU likes to throw the ball down the field. I mean, you saw the Ole Miss game. I had the numbers at one point. I think they threw 17 passes that went at least 15 or 20 yards. I mean, they were stretching the field like crazy in the Ole Miss game. They want to do that, but it's just not a very high percentage thing to do when the rain's coming down as hard as it was. So I think they were trying to stay around the line of scrimmage. That's just my guess on the situation. They did run the ball a little bit better, certainly busted the big play there on the first drive, and I'm shocked that Durham got run down. I thought for sure once he got the corner that he was gone, and he got run down there, and then LSU couldn't put it in the end zone. But I thought they were a little vanilla offensively and a little conservative offensively because of the weather. And Alabama probably was too, but they had the ability to snap the ball to Jalen Milroe and just run, and that's real high percentage. LSU doesn't have that option, and they tried to get the running game going a little bit. My biggest issue with LSU offensively in this game, other than turnovers, which we're going to talk about, and I've got a piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now that dissects every single interception that Garrett Nussmeier's thrown this year, all 11 of them right there, and 9 of them have video with them on the site. So if you want to check that out, you can at LouisianaSports.net. And the turnovers are the biggest thing. But Brian Kelly was asked about this at the press conference today and didn't have a firm answer because the question wasn't necessarily as specific as he wanted it. But LSU snapped the ball 70 times on Saturday, 70 plays. Caden Durham was on the field for 20 of those. No, that doesn't work for me. That does not work for me. And I know that Pro Football Focus is not the end-all, be-all, and they're not exactly correct, but I have found in my Pro Football Focus pieces that I put up every Sunday on LouisianaSports.net that oftentimes the grades do reflect kind of what you thought when you were watching the game. And I think that they're rooted in truth. Whether you think they're 4 points off or 8 points off or 10 points off or exactly on the money, they're rooted in some truth. Nobody plays a phenomenal game and grades out a 20. Nobody plays a garbage game and gets an 86. Like, they're rooted in some truth. And Josh Williams' pass blocking grade was 32. So it's not like he's Anthony Munoz back there in pass protection. Caden Durham's got to be on the field more than 20 of 70 snaps. Now, if his foot still hurts, then we can have that discussion, and I don't know that. I was told last week that Caden Durham had been playing with an insert in his shoe and that he got that taken out last week, which lends me to believe he's getting much better than he was, say, 2 weeks ago at Texas A&M or even further back than that. He's got to play more than 20 of 70 snaps. He is clearly the best back that you've got. He's the most explosive back you've got. He's capable in the passing game. And it's not like the guys that you're putting out there other than him are setting the world on fire. So that was an issue that I had with the LSU offense. Speaking of the Pro Football Focus grades, Pro Football Focus liked the way Emory Jones and Miles Frazier played in this game, and I thought LSU did a pretty good job running the ball to the right. LSU ran the ball to the right 9 times for 72 yards. They ran the ball to the left 9 times for 26 yards. So a lot more success running behind Emory Jones and Miles Frazier than going behind Will Campbell and Paul Mbenga making his first start. But the turnovers are the biggest thing offensively. And in my studies of Garrett's interceptions, and I wrote this at .net, it is far more often than not a misread that is plaguing him with these picks. I'll just briefly kind of run through them here as I've got the list of all 11 times he's turned it over. The first interception he threw this year, and nobody cares about. There were 7 seconds left against USC. LSU was trying a desperation thing, and Mason Taylor didn't turn around because they were probably going to try some hook and lateral thing. I don't care about the first pick that he threw. I don't care about the last pick that he threw on Saturday night against Alabama because C.J. Daniels fell down in the rain. So 2 of them you completely throw out. I don't care about them at all. Now, after that, you've got some that are concerning for different reasons. A lot of them are rooted in the fact that he is missing reads. He's thrown 2 interceptions down in the red zone that have badly hurt. Of course, the one against Alabama in the game on Saturday, they were on the 5-yard line, 2nd and goal, and he throws it right into the hands of a safety who was going with one receiver and then stepped in front of another, and he just didn't see that guy. The other red zone interception was in the end zone against South Carolina when he got hit, and they called it back for the touchdown, but South Carolina still got to keep the football. Those 2 red zone mistakes, he's just not seeing one of the guys that's in front of him there. Only 1 interception all year long has come because he got too much pressure on him, and the ball got tipped. It was the first interception that he threw against Ole Miss. They got pressure, tipped ball, and Ole Miss ran it down inside the red zone. There are 2 where I think that he just never saw a guy. One was against South Alabama. It was an interception that he threw in the second half of that game. He thought he had Lacey on an in-breaking route, and then there was a safety that was there, and he just didn't see him, threw it right to the safety. The other one was the last interception against Texas A&M, where he tried to dump it off real short to Durham, and he didn't see Torian York, who was rushing, peel back, and he just never saw the guy. And then there are the ones that you just cannot have, that they've got to limit, and it's the bad decisions. That are 2 that you saw against Ole Miss and Texas A&M. The Ole Miss first interception where LSU had just gotten the pick by Zy Alexander in the end zone, and then he threw that pop fly into double coverage down the left sideline right into the hands of Ole Miss. Can't have that. And then you had the one in College Station that started the disaster where LSU was leading by 10. He rolled left and then tried to throw it back across his body. Those have to be cleaned up. So there's a mixed bag of everything that he's doing right now. I think that in time, you will be able to eliminate those terrible decisions. The question is, are you going to be able to eliminate when he doesn't see defenders? When he doesn't see a safety? When he doesn't see... that part is going to be difficult. He'll learn to throw the ball away and not just chuck it up against Ole Miss. I got you. But he's got to do a better job, and it's a first year as a starting quarterback. That does matter. He's an old player, but he hasn't started a lot of games. But if he continues to turn it over 2 or 3 times every time out, LSU's going to have a hard time winning because their defense is not good enough to deal with that all the time. You're giving up short fields. You're changing momentum. You're taking the home crowd out of it or letting the road crowd into it, depending on where you are. Garrett's got to do a better job of decision-making. They've got to help him. You've got to keep running the ball. You've got to not get behind by 3 scores like they've done now the last 2 weeks. But he's got to clean up the interceptions. And I wrote about that over at LouisianaSports.net. You can go check that out. All right, let's switch gears from LSU and Alabama. Really, really disappointing night in Tiger Stadium. Let's go to Saints and Falcons. Coach Rizzi got a win yesterday in the Dome. We'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They've got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. It's an awesome place to watch the football. LSU is out of town in Gainesville this coming weekend, so if you're looking for somewhere to watch, ESPN Bet's an awesome place there in LeBear's Baton Rouge. Plus, got an opportunity to sign up for the Cover 5 SEC contest. Season-long contest, probably a little bit too much for you at this point. But if you like to compete against me and a lot of our listeners looking for something fun to do this weekend, check it out. Download the Cover 5 app, enter the code LABRSEC24, pick 5 SEC games, and see how you stack up. You can win weekly prizes every single week. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday's show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Got machines all over this building, all of them supplied by Trey Beal and the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. They've got clients in every single vertical market you can think of, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in law, banking, education. No matter what you do, Gulf Coast Office Products has clients in your line of work, and they know the needs of each individual vertical as far as printing, scanning, copying goes. They can get you in the machines that you need to make sure that you're running as efficiently as you can be. And if there are ever any issues, they've got enough manpower. They can be there very, very quickly to make sure you are up and running. Gulf Coast Office Products, Baton Rouge Business Report, rated them #1 as far as office suppliers in the city of Baton Rouge or statewide, wherever you are in the state. Give them a call. Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Really good day for the Saints yesterday. I thought the New Orleans Saints played a really good football game against a good football team in the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. That's an Atlanta team that has played well, that has an offense that's been humming pretty good. It's got a veteran quarterback and a defense that has its issues but does have some playmakers. And the Saints didn't torch them, although it looked like they were off to a good start there with the long Taysom touchdown, which would have been nice for my fantasy team, by the way. Instead, it got called back for a penalty, but they just kept plugging along. And you take a 17-7 lead at halftime, and you didn't light it up in the second half, but your defense, which has been buckling for over a month now, showed up and got the stops they needed. Big pick by Tyrann Mathieu, big fourth down stop at the end there, and the Saints get a 20-17 win. I generally, because we cover the Saints on the professional side and we cover LSU and the SEC on the college perspective, I generally lean more to the emotional side of things with college football because it feels like college kids are a little more volatile. You've got the field rushing, and college kids generally have bigger emotional swings than 29-year-old pros. So I don't spend a lot of time focusing on the headspace of the Saints or their opponents. I just assume they're going to show up ready to play every week. We're talking about, LSU's coming off a bye against Ole Miss, who played a physical game. We're talking about Arkansas coming off a bye, getting LSU coming to Fayetteville after LSU got a big win where they stormed the field. We're talking about, LSU and Texas A&M and the emotion of one team coming off a bye there. Like, there's a lot of things that we dissect from the LSU side with emotions and spots on the schedule. You don't do that with the NFL. But in this case, it did apply to the Saints. Because you could tell based on post-game press conferences and general energy level on the field that the Saints responded to Darren Rizzi last week. And it's evident that Dennis Allen had lost his locker room. And we talked about it last week, and we kind of surmised that, but that was mainly based on the reaction to Allen's termination. Then you see the effort those guys played with yesterday, and you're like, oh, that further crystallizes what we thought. Like, they had enough. And I don't know how long you can ride that wave of emotion. I'm not sure. Maybe just 1 week. The interim bump. We talk about that all the time. But it looked a lot better. And Alvin Kamara was plugging, running really hard. He becomes the Saints' all-time leading rusher yesterday. Taysom eased back in there, and they tried, and they plugged along, and they only ran it for 3.6 yards per carry, but they stuck with it, 27 runs. And Carr didn't turn it over. He made a couple big plays to MVS, who is kind of the leader of that group now. I was texting with some buddies, like, I don't know a lot about Kevin Austin Jr. I don't know a lot about Dante Pettis. I certainly knew they were on the roster. I get Ross's LouisianaSports.net pieces every single day, and they're in there. But I don't know what kind of impact you can expect from them. At least when you brought in MVS, you knew that you had a pro. You had a guy that had a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl last year, been in the league better than half a decade, and can bring some speed and some veteran presence to a wide receiver room that is a skeleton crew at this point. You don't have Olave, you don't have Shaheed, and you're just trying to figure it out. And MVS makes a big 67-yarder, had 2 touchdowns, went over 100 yards, and was everything they needed. And the Saints got, quite frankly, good fortune. I mean, Young Hoku is as accurate a kicker as there's been in the NFL the last handful of years. Saints know that because he beat them in Atlanta with a damn near 60-yard field goal. And he missed 3. Now, you got your hand on one, so credit to you for that one. But the 2 misses, that's just good fortune. And you know what? After 2 months where nothing went the Saints' way and everybody was hurt, and now you're firing your coach and trading your best player, 2 months of misery, I'll take a couple breaks. We'll take an accurate kicker having one of those days. It happens. I did not have a lot of confidence when Atlanta got the football at the end that the Saints were going to be able to get that stop. I did not have a lot of confidence that was going to happen. That is that 2 months of nothing going right talking to me. But they did it. And it was a day that the Saints players and the Saints fan base probably needed. We talked about this last week. It's not a comfortable conversation to have, but if you're a Saints fan, like, is it in your best interest as a Saints fan, not the players, they got to try to win, got to keep their jobs. But as a Saints fan, are you okay with losing most of them the rest of the way? It's probably the best thing for the organization to get as good a draft pick as you can get. But it is pretty miserable losing and losing and losing and losing and losing. And so to shake that off, however brief it may be, and to do it against that team in that dome, that's a good day for Saints fans in New Orleans. I think there's probably a little more pep in the step of the Central Business District and the Marigny, Bywater, out in Metairie, Mid-City, Lakeview. I think there's a little bit more pep in the step of Saints fans today after beating the Falcons and knocking them down a peg, down to 6-4. You're still 3-7. You're still on a fast track to nowhere this year, but that's not a conversation for today. The conversation for today is great energy, great enthusiasm, great effort. Offense, did what it needed to do, made a couple of big plays, committed to the run game, got those 17 points in the second quarter, and the defense, when they had to, slammed the door in the fourth quarter, creating turnovers, getting the stops, and doing enough to beat the Atlanta Falcons inside the Dome. That was a good day for Saints fans, one they desperately needed. Now you turn around and Cleveland comes to the Dome, and hopefully you can get a little bit healthier and get some of these receivers a little bit more seasoning. But great win, great energy, great vibes. Alvin Kamara gets his Saints rushing record. Good day for Saints fans. Didn't start off very well for Darren Rizzi. If you missed that press conference, there's some quality stuff. Asked kind of what he did to start the day. He's like, well, I'm pretty transparent. Came in today and clogged the toilet up. Like that's the first thing he said when he's asked about his first game day as the head coach. But after that, it got better. And the Saints get that win over the Dirty Birds in the Dome. If you're looking for Saints coverage, you can always find it on LouisianaSports.net, where Ross Jackson's got it, or, of course, on YouTube with us, Hunt on Saints. Subscribe up to the channel. You get all your Saints news right there to your feed when you subscribe to Hunt on Saints. When we come back, let's leave football together. LSU basketball was on the hardwood last night in the PMAC. Got a little hairy. I'll tell you why and what I saw from the Tigers against Alabama State. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. If you're in pain, Robbie Bolton is the guy you've got to go see. He and his team are fantastic. They are hands-on, and they will make sure that pain is gone and that you are back to being your active self. That can mean a lot of different things. That can mean youth athletics. That can mean back out on the golf course. That can mean back to working out. That can be back to just moving around day to day without dealing with that back pain, that neck pain, that knee pain that you've got. If your physical therapy has not produced the results that you're desiring, go to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. They will make sure that happens. Dry needling, cupping, scraping, soft tissue manipulation. They got you covered at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton's been at it for nearly 2 decades. He's got professional athletes that come see him. They make good living with their bodies. They trust Robbie Bolton. You should as well. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, EvolvePT.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them, like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile.
on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Closing up hour number 1 here, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. LSU moved to 2-0 on the men's basketball season Sunday evening inside the PMAC. Alabama State was the opponent, and it was pretty ugly there for about 30 minutes of game time. LSU was trailing at the half, 32-26. That 6-point lead swelled to 10 with 12:38 to play in the game. But from that 12:38 mark onward, LSU outscored Alabama State 36-13 to put the game to bed and win it 74-61. Let's start with how they won the game, because that was in real question with 10 minutes to play. Jordan Sears and Cam Carter completely took the game over. Two senior guards, the guys that are going to lead LSU in scoring, save Jalen Reed. Those two guys completely took over. They made 8 of their 9 shots, turned the ball over. They missed 8 of their 9 shots and turned the ball over 3 times in the first half. After halftime, they each scored 18 points, so 36 total. They combined to shoot 8 for 11 from the floor. Carter made 3 of 4 threes. Sears made 1 of his 2 threes. They also got to the foul line 18 times in the second half. They made 16 of their 18. So those two guys, when LSU had to have buckets, were really good with the ball in their hands. Sears did a great job of attacking, getting to the rim. Carter hit some shots from the perimeter. Those two guys basically saved the day for LSU, and that's ultimately all that really matters. You're trying to improve, and there's some things I want to talk about that I saw that I liked and some things that I really didn't like in the game, but you won the game because those two guys, your senior guards in crunch time, completely took the game over. Now, why'd you get in that position? I thought in the first half, LSU was not the aggressor. Alabama State came in and was playing harder than LSU. I very rarely say that, but it just seemed evident when Alabama State was on defense, they were making things very uncomfortable for LSU, and that's because they were playing hard. And LSU, I didn't think was necessarily playing all that hard. I thought they were taking some lazy shots, taking some bad shots. They were turning the ball over, which was pitiful. And you just got the fight taken to you by an underdog in the first half, I thought. Also, I thought LSU offensively started playing a little tight once they started to turn the ball over. I thought it just kind of got worse. And you look at the first half box score, LSU only shot 32% from the floor in the first half. They were 8 of 25. They had 8 turnovers in the first half. There were a lot of those. They were just careless dribbling errors that you just getting the ball picked from you, which is just shouldn't happen, quite frankly. But it was happening frequently to LSU. And it wasn't just one guy. Like Sears had a turnover. Carter had 2. Jalen Reed had a turnover. Mike Williams had 2 turnovers. Damian Collins had a turnover. Like it was a mix of guys, and LSU just had no rhythm on offense. And once that started to happen, you started to shoot it worse. You're only 3 of 13 from 3-point range. I thought they looked a little bit tight in the first half. That changed in the second half when Sears and Carter really took the game over. Defensively, I thought LSU was really good in the second half. I thought their ball pressure was better. I thought their effort was better. It helped that you played a team that wasn't very good shooting the basketball. They were 1 of 12 in the second half from 3. And for the game, Alabama State was just 1 of 20 from 3-point range. If they hit any of those early in the game or midway through the second half, they could have stretched that thing on you a little bit, but they didn't because they're not a very good shooting team. But you held them to 8 of 30 from the floor in the second half. And I think a lot of that was due to LSU doing a really good job with ball pressure. Another defensive thing that really stood out to me, and this even stood out to me in the first half when LSU was trailing at times. Last year, LSU was not any good at all protecting the rim. They didn't have anybody out there that could get to the rim and block shots. They were getting beat off the dribble, and then guys were finishing when they got to the rim. And in the game yesterday, you saw Robert Miller early in the game on a fast break. You saw Damian Collins multiple times throughout the game. And you also saw, who else had a good block? It was Derek Fountain. Those three guys, I thought, did a really good job of protecting the rim. Keep in mind, last year LSU's team, Will Baker is not a rim protector as a post. He's just not. He's a pretty skilled offensive guy and 7 feet tall, but he's not going to alter a lot of shots at the rim. Jalen Reed is not a great rim protector. He's more of a guy that likes to drive and play offense than a defensive enforcer. And you didn't have Damian Collins for most of the year. So you didn't have a lot of length and athleticism to put around the rim. Well, now they do, because Miller can really run and can really jump. Collins is healthy. He can really run and really jump. And so I think those two guys absolutely change the way you play defensively. And then I thought Fountain did a pretty good job in the game as well. So this team needs to be much better than they were last year on defense. I think there are going to be times where the offense might get a little bit clunky, and you're going to need to stay in games with your defense. LSU didn't really have that for most of the year last year. I think with the guards you've got on the perimeter and their ability to kind of stop dribble penetration more often than not, and the length and athleticism you've got in the back end, I think LSU's going to be better defensively this year. Again, this is a SWAC team. I'm not trying to draw massive sweeping judgments on a 13-point win over a SWAC team that had you down 10 with 12 minutes to go. But it's just something I noticed in watching the game, that LSU did a good job of protecting the rim from the help side. And it's a game changer. Because if you can erase 3 or 4 looks at the rim, those are 75% looks or so. You're saving 6, 7 points, 8 points if you can block some shots at the rim. And that could be a huge difference maker moving forward. SEC guards are going to be bigger and more skilled and ready to finish than Alabama State guards are, but the point remains you've got to do a good job of protecting the rim. Beck, I know you watched the Tigers. It wasn't a great performance by any stretch, and I'm not trying to paint it in that way. I think I did a good job of suggesting that they were pretty bad for 30 minutes, but they did get it done on Saturday in the PMAC, and Sunday that was better than it looked with 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Jalen Reed struggle a little bit.
He did.
He only ended up taking 3 shots in the game. So I would like to see, them go to him more at the end of the game. I mean, Steers and Carter were just taking over the game. So at that point, it was just give them the ball and they'll figure it out. One thing that as I was watching the game, and watching Sears and the way he plays, like, man, he really reminds me of Anthony Hickey.
Hickey, yeah.
They have similar stature, similar hair, and the way they play. But man, he looks the part.
I got to ask, give me a comp for somebody that likes LSU basketball, but they certainly don't know who they sign in the portal. They just wait till they see him on TV. Tell me who a comp for this Sears guy. And I said it's basically like Hickey.
Yeah.
I think he's a little better, but I think that's basically what you're looking at.
Yeah, and
speaking of transfers, Jai Bailey is not going to make many highlight reels, but if you look at his box score every night, you're going to go, oh. Like, you didn't even really notice him in the game on Sunday. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 turnover, also added a steal. He was plus 16 in the game. Like, he's going to do that most nights because he's not going to make threes. He's not going to throw down thunderous dunks more often than not. He's just going to grab a few rebounds, make a couple of shots, make a couple of layups, shoot some free throws, and alter some shots on defense, and then he'll stuff the stat sheet, and you won't really notice he was out there.
Yeah, that's a guy that LSU needs, and they haven't really had the last few years. So that he's going to be a big part of this team. Maybe not always scoring wise, but very important to the overall success, though, for sure.
I think a lot of folks who watched LSU and paid attention to basketball for the first time on Thursday in the opener, probably, or Wednesday in the opener, probably were like, "Oh, this Curtis Givens, he's going to play a lot. He made 3 threes and he played most of the first half, and that was because Sears was in foul trouble." You saw Givens, he got sped up big time last night. He turned the ball over. He only played 11 minutes, and a lot of that was in the first half. He turned the ball over twice. they were obvious turnovers where he wasn't paying attention closely enough, and Alabama State just picked him. He missed his 4 shots. 2 of them were threes. Like, he's still a work in progress. I am super high on Curtis Gibbons. I think he's going to be a great point guard for LSU in time. But right now, there's no two ways about it. Jordan Sears is very much the dominant point guard of this team.
I think him and Mike Williams probably won't see too many minutes unless one of those guys gets foul trouble or gets hurt, which is unfortunate. I was hoping to see Mike Williams take the next step this year, but he may have to wait another year.
He hit 2 big threes in the first half when they couldn't find anything yesterday, so that was good to see from him. I think they can trust him to go out there and play, but Sears is going to be kind of one of the guys that really makes this thing go. So, again, not a phenomenal effort from LSU, 74-61, but the key in November and December is to avoid landmines. And you stepped on one last year against Nichols, and you had one right there in your sights last night, and you made it work. So they'll go to Manhattan, Kansas on Thursday. That'll be a fun game to look forward to and to preview. Tigers 2-0 after beating Alabama State 74-61 inside the PMAC. My SEC picks against the point spread went pretty well on Saturday. We'll talk some SEC football. Is Ole Miss the best team in the league? We'll do that coming up next on a Monday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you got one of those big jacuzzi-style tubs and you don't ever use it, it's a lot of space. Take it out. Use that space for a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. It changes the functionality of your bathroom, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, adds some value to your home as well. David Duvall and his team are happy to help you with any tub-to-shower conversions you may want to handle. If you're thinking, I don't know about the payment for that right now, they got financing, and it can be at 0% for 18 months if you qualify for it. Speaking of pricing, it's free to have the consultation. So go to onebathandclosets.com, check out pictures of their great work, see the testimonials from their satisfied customers, and start that process today with that free consultation. Have David Duvall and his team come out and see what they can do for you. It's all there online at onebathandclosets.com. One Bath and Closets. onebathandclosets.com.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them, like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Join us at Pro Dreams in Mandeville for our special event, A Day of Champions. Meet LSU National Championship winning head coaches Jay Johnson, Skip Bertman, and Paul Maneri. Don't miss your chance to purchase authentic sports memorabilia, autographed by the champions themselves. It's the perfect opportunity to celebrate LSU baseball and take home a piece of history. Visit pro-dreams.com to get your tickets. See you there.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Some interesting comments from Cowboys pass rusher Micah Parsons regarding whether Coach Mike McCarthy will be back next year. Parsons said Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. He then cited guard Zach Martin, added they want to win games and do great things for those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. Parsons forgot about one thing regarding his coach, notes ESPN NFL analyst Damian Woody.
That is the quickest way to destroy a locker room, what Michael Parsons just did right there. To literally undress your coach in the manner that in which he did is just unacceptable. Because let me tell you something. As great as Michael Parsons is, he's a great player. But let me tell you something about Mike McCarthy. He's done something that you haven't done. He's won a champion. He's won a championship. He is a champion.
Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill with a wrist injury listed as questionable against the Rams on Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern on ESPN. Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco was arrested in the Dominican Republic over a parking lot altercation involving guns. He is awaiting trial in a sexual abuse case involving a 14-year-old girl.
Here's one stat that's super simple to remember. Discover automatically doubles the cash back on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. With Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2. It's not a Tuesday. I get the day wrong 20% of the time. I do that, which is just pathetic. However, it is a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Denton Day, 30 minutes from right now. Dramatic ending to the Commanders game yesterday on a spot that the Commanders did not get the benefit of the call on. So Pittsburgh goes into Washington and wins. There were so many Pittsburgh Steelers fans at that game yesterday. If you looked at the game, there were terrible towels waving everywhere. It was amazing. But Jaden and the boys could not quite get it done. We'll talk to Denton about that, as well as the rest of the college football scene that unfortunately does include LSU and Alabama. But in this segment, we always look back at the Saturday that was in the Southeastern Conference and grade my picks against the spread. And I'll tell you, I was pleasantly surprised when I sat down at my desk this morning and started looking at my picks. I just leave them right there every weekend, right there, and I come back and grade them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 back on my picks this weekend. I guess I just got to keep taking underdogs. It's just really the only way to live.
Yeah, I've tried to tell you every week you take all these favorites. I'm just, Hunt, that is a lot of points you're just giving away, and you don't need to do that. Just take the points when we can get them. And that's what you did.
I was correct on Texas laying 22.5 because I did not think DJ Lagway would play. Yeah. He didn't. Florida had no chance. So that was a pretty easy cover. I had Ole Miss plus 2.5. I didn't love that pick. It cashed with ease. I did have Vanderbilt catching 5.5. South Carolina laid waste to them. I had Mississippi State catching 24.5 from Tennessee. That one snuck in as well, even though I did say that I thought Mississippi State would score 20 points. Didn't quite get to that number. They didn't, did they?
Missouri?
No, Mississippi State.
No. It was, I think they lost by 18 or something like that.
But I was saying they were going to score 20 points.
I don't know if they did. Let me see.
I'm looking it up. But right. I thought they would score 20 points, and that's why they would cover. I think they just actually played a little bit better defense than they've been playing.
Yeah, they had 14.
Yeah, so they did not get the 20. So I was still right, covered. And then Oklahoma and Missouri, like, come on, I'm not taking Oklahoma as a favorite on the road. Missouri did come back and win that game in the end. I think I'll ask you first, Beck. Most interesting result in the SEC on Saturday. I have a feeling I know where you're going, but I'll just toss it to you first.
I mean, it's got to be LSU. I don't.
Oh, I'm talking about outside of LSU.
Outside of LSU, I'd say the Ole Miss game. Carson Beck just continues.
I don't know what's happened. It's like the Monstar stole his talent. I don't know what he was pretty good last year. I realize the supporting cast is awesome, and that does prop you up as a quarterback at Georgia with all these 4 and 5 stars. But like they took Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers away, and he can't throw it to the right team. He can't complete passes. He just gets worse every week. It feels like. And here's my thing, and I said this at the time, and I probably lost sight of it a little bit, but when I watched Ole Miss in Tiger Stadium, I was impressed. I thought they looked really good. I thought they covered well and made things tough on Garrett Nussmeier. I thought the pass rush looked to be pretty intimidating. I've always thought that Jackson Dart was a pretty good quarterback. I think Kiffin is really good. I thought they looked really good. And they kind of, since that was their second loss, left the radar. And everybody's like, oh, well, whatever. And then they just kind of went out and just started beating the crap out of people. They crushed a good South Carolina team in Columbia. Just absolutely toyed with South Carolina for the entirety of that game and just dominated them on defense. And nobody cared. And they beat Oklahoma in a game they didn't play great in. But they crushed Arkansas and nobody cared. And I don't have a good explanation for why they lost the game to Kentucky. I'm not really sure how that happened. But Saturday was not a fluke. When you stuff Georgia in a locker, like that matters. And this is the opposite of what we've seen from Ole Miss over the years, in that they've done a good job of beating up on Arkansas, and they'll take Kentucky out. And, yeah, they can handle South Carolina, and they're fine. Generally speaking, they go and play Vanderbilt or A&M. But when they step up and have to play Saban in Alabama, when they step up and have to play Georgia, they get embarrassed. They're just not competitive. So what they did was they went out and they got a bunch of transfer portal guys at the line of scrimmage. Yeah, they got Trey Amos in the back end, and that's great. And, yeah, they got Trey Harris from Louisiana Tech, and he's been phenomenal. But the difference is they're really good at the line of scrimmage. I had a conversation with somebody inside LSU's building last week and said, we haven't really seen anybody quite like Walter Nolan all year. Like he changes the way you have to call a game because you can't really trust that you're going to deal with him snap in and snap out. He's going to beat you a lot. And those are the kind of guys that Ole Miss just didn't really have. They've always had Laquan Treadwell. They've always had Dexter McCluster, and they've had good quarterbacks that are good college players. They've had the skill guys. They have not had the guys at the point of attack to line up and go get it. And now they've got Walter Nolan, and J.J. Pegues is a freak athlete they got in from Auburn. It's the second year, but they got from Auburn. And they went and got Princely from Umamielen from Florida. And, like, they beefed themselves up at the point of attack. And they just flat out whipped Georgia on Saturday. And I'm not right now prepared to tell you that Ole Miss, like, they might be a championship contender. Like, I don't, you do that to Georgia. I know this isn't Georgia from 3 years ago. It's not, but they're still good. And they scored 10 points. Carson Beck threw for 186 yards on 31 tries. No touchdowns and a pick. And this is the stat that really blows me away. Georgia ran the ball 33 times for 59 yards. 1.8 yards per carry. Like, that is some playing up front by Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, when have we really ever seen Georgia be dominated that physically, especially at the line of scrimmage? Doesn't happen.
No, just doesn't. I got a fly that's just driving me nuts over here. But it was incredible to watch Ole Miss do that to Georgia. So they they're finding one. I thought it was like a little baseball lean here, but for those that don't remember, Tim Elko was the MVP of their College World Series team, and his line was "Don't let the Rebs get hot." That they started really poorly that year, and they found a way to sneak in as the last team in as a favor to Bianco, basically, and end up winning the national championship. And Jackson Dart said after the game, "What did Tim Elko say? Don't let the Rebs get hot." It kind of, it feels like that for Ole Miss right now if they can find a way into the playoff, and it feels like they're going to do that. So heck of an effort by Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. That's a program-changing win for them. And if they don't win that game and this season ends and all those guys leave, you've got to restock all the shelves again, which is a daunting task. But I feel like you've got that fan base energized again. You've got the donors that are probably motivated to keep this thing rolling. And that's a program changer for Ole Miss to go and do that to the Georgia Bulldogs. So clearly the most impactful game of the weekend. I want to talk next about Oklahoma because I watched Sooner Scoop's post-game show on Sunday, just out of curiosity, kind of see what the vibes were. They think this could be it for Brent Venables. Like, they think that they may pull the plug after the second year with him because it's just so bad. And this was not an utter failure by the offense. And that's what it had been. And you fired your offensive coordinator, and Jackson Arnold's not any good, and Michael Hawkins is young. But the offense was terrible, and that's why they're losing games earlier. Venables kind of has his guys on defense. You're 2 years into this, and you let Missouri with a backup quarterback take the win from you. I mean, the offense is turning the ball over, and Arnold's fumble was a crucial one. But Missouri scored 27 points after halftime. 27. And it's just hard to look at that and think it's anything other than coaching malpractice. You should be able to slow down a Drew Pine Missouri offense and not allow them to score that many points after halftime. And then when you've got a chance to close the game out with a stop, not being able to get it done. And they just couldn't. And Oklahoma's just in a world of hurt. And that's a game from LSU's perspective that you were looking at before the season started as one that would be potentially very, very difficult. And it may be. LSU's not really high and mighty these days after the last 6 quarters. But that looks like a very winnable game at this point. And it's even more disappointing, I think, if you're LSU, that you had this schedule that didn't include Texas and didn't include Georgia, and you got Ole Miss to come to you, and you got Alabama to come to you, and Oklahoma can't put 2 feet in front of each other, and you're sitting here with 3 losses already. But maybe things are worse in Norman, Oklahoma, because they're 1-5 in league play, 5-5 overall. They've still got a trip to Tiger Stadium coming at the end of the year, and oh, by the way, they're hosting Alabama in 2 weeks. So it's not looking great for Coach Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners at this point. It's possible after year 2 he may be given the boot and they may look elsewhere there in Norman. So that's a look at some of the stuff that we saw in the Southeastern Conference. We'll come back and close the book on that. I've also got a thought on LSU's baseball scrimmage yesterday at Louisiana Lafayette. So we'll do some of that when we get back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. I know a lot of you don't love the experience generally of going into a car dealership and having that sales interaction. It's not your favorite thing. It can be a little bit pushy. You don't have to at Genesis of Baton Rouge. One, it's not going to be if you show up, but you never have to set foot on the dealership to buy a Genesis of Baton Rouge. Well, I'd like to test drive it. Well, you can. You don't have to go to the dealership to test drive it. One of their brand ambassadors will come to you in the Baton Rouge area. If you're at work, you got 20 minutes to drive around, they can come to you. If you're at home, got 20 minutes to drive around, they come to you. They'll talk you through all the fantastic safety features, and you'll see what driving a Genesis is all about. So sleek, so smooth, so comfortable, so stylish, so safe as well. Certainly a luxury brand of vehicles. And if you decide after that test drive, hey, I want to get in this Genesis of Baton Rouge, you don't have to go to the dealership to sign the papers. They can do digital delivery, e-contacts. Car can be delivered to you. Simple as that. It's a different type of experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Again, every single car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always...
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is your new home for the New Orleans Pelicans. Tonight, the Pelicans host the Brooklyn Nets. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And congratulations to Rhett Meyer from Central. Rhett is the Week 11 winner in our 2024 College Football Pick'em Contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 12 by this Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10 people, and the first place season-long champ will receive a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
Denton Day coming up in about 12 minutes. Talk about the weekend that was in college football and a little bit about his Washington Commanders as they dropped a home game to Pittsburgh yesterday. South Carolina is completely off the national radar, I think, but they're playing damn good football and really have been all year. You look at some of these scores. They beat Vanderbilt on Saturday by 21. They beat Texas A&M by 24. They went to Norman, Oklahoma, and beat them by 26. They beat Kentucky by 25. And two of their losses are LSU by 3 in a game that they very well could have won. Didn't, but could have. They missed a field goal to send it to overtime. And then at Alabama by 2. Now, Ole Miss punked them 27-3 in Columbia, but that's pretty salty stuff for South Carolina. I mean, nobody's paying attention to them because they got 3 losses, and they had 3 losses as of 3 weeks ago. So you're talking about mid-October, you've already got 3 losses. Nobody nationally is going to be talking very much about you. But that's just not a team you want to play right now. And Missouri will play them this weekend. Then they'll get Wofford, and they'll be at Clemson, and they'll have every opportunity to beat Clemson. This could be a 9-3 football team with wins that are pretty impressive to this point, and losses that aren't that bad. It's a pretty good win now for LSU. Doesn't really matter for much, but it's a pretty good win because I realize that Sellers went out, and you can always use that caveat, but LSU did come back from 17 points down and did score 36 points in that game to win it. So that's a pretty nice win for LSU. And South Carolina has been very, very good. Vanderbilt kind of turned into a pumpkin there a little bit. We'll see what happens. Then they got a bye week, and then they'll come to Baton Rouge. But that was some impressive stuff there from Shane Beamer and South Carolina. Then not a lot to say about Texas and Florida. I didn't think that it would be all that competitive, especially with DJ Lagway being out of that game, and it wasn't. Texas found some rhythm offensively. They led that game at halftime 35-0. They just absolutely smothered Aiden Warner, who did not even complete 50% of his throws. He was 12 of 25 for 132 yards. He had 2 interceptions. Now the entirety of this story comes to LSU and in Florida, who's the quarterback? Because if Aiden Warner plays on Saturday, LSU's going to be in really good shape. If DJ Lagway plays, it's going to be a dogfight, I think, because Florida did manage to run it okay on Texas. Jacoby Jackson had 116 yards on the ground. He was averaging 6 yards a carry, and none of that came on big plays. His longest run of the day was 11 yards, and he still went over 100 on Texas. Jaden Ball had 19 carries as well for 88 yards and a touchdown. Like, they ran it okay. They just had no semblance of any sort of passing threat. And then Quinn Ewers kind of got it going a little bit. He threw 5 touchdowns and kind of got his mojo back. He had been kind of missing that since he went down, quite frankly. And so maybe they jump-started things a little bit there in Austin. So 49-17 was the final in that one. That's kind of a look around the Southeastern Conference. I did, before we get to Denton, I want to change gears briefly and mention a couple things that happened in LSU's baseball scrimmages over the weekend in Lafayette. One, that's a savage move by Jay Johnson of taking his team on the road to Lafayette the morning after LSU and Bama play a night game in Tiger Stadium. It really dampens the amount of tailgating and fun his players can do. I think that's probably by design. But they were up to Lafayette bright and early, and I saw some interesting things in the box score that I wanted to point out. I don't have a lot of color to offer these because I didn't go to the game, but I do have a box score, and I think it's interesting to look at. William Schmidt had 2 really good innings to close out the 9-inning game that LSU won. He threw 2 innings, had a walk and a strikeout, no hits, no runs allowed. That's a positive there. On the negative side, Jacob Myers did pitch for LSU in that game. In the 1 inning he threw, he walked 3 guys. That's the issue with Myers, and it's why I don't know that you can trust him to be a big role pitcher on this team, because now you just got too large a sample size of 2 college years. Now it's time in the fall where walks are just not like a bit of a bugaboo, just a massive problem. You cannot, an SEC reliever cannot come in and issue 3 walks in an inning. That can't happen. And so I'm right now not counting on a ton of help from him. I'd love to be wrong because the stuff is great and he throws really hard. He's got a great breaking ball, but you just can't walk that many guys. One more from a pitching perspective that I think is very, very much worth mentioning is that Connor Ware, who is a left-handed junior college transfer that LSU got in, I heard a good bit about him in the summer, that they were excited about kind of what the potential was. He's been very good in his 3 or 4 stints on the mound in inter squads. They gave him the ball yesterday against Louisiana Lafayette, 2 innings, 5 strikeouts. That's dealing from the left side against a quality opponent in Louisiana Lafayette. So I was thrilled to see that on the box score. That was in the second game that LSU played and actually lost 6-3 to ULL. But Ware right now, I think, is trending towards a potential rotation spot. It's so early, and again, I don't mean to make any real declarations at this point, but I think that Ware is trending in that direction right now. I think that's safe to say. As far as offense goes, the big day was Jared Jones. He goes 3 for 4 in the 1 game he played in, and 2 of those 3 left the yard. He hit an opposite field home run for a solo shot early in the game, and then got a change up with the bases loaded 3-0 and absolutely wailed on one over the left center field wall. I saw that one on Twitter. So Jones had a monster day, 3 for 4 with 5 driven in and 2 runs scored on those 2 homers. Mikey Ryan played some shortstop for LSU, as did Michael Braswell. Braswell also homered in the game. Jared Jones played a little third base for LSU, which I found interesting. Jake Brown kept his good fall rolling with a couple of hits in the game that he played in as a designated hitter. Chris Stanfield had 2 hits in the game that he played in. Auburn transfer in center fielder. He had 2 hits, and one of those was a home run. He also walked. So that's a good sign there. Daniel Dickinson had 2 hits for LSU playing second base in that first game for the Tigers. So interesting stuff from LSU and Louisiana Lafayette. If you'd like to look at the box score, you can find it on Louisiana's not on LouisianaSports.net. You can find it at LSUSports.net. We got a story up that LSU sent out, the press release LSU sent out on LouisianaSports.net. But good work for LSU. They've now completed their 2 marathon days against other teams. They went to Biloxi last weekend and played Samford, and then this weekend they went over to Lafayette and played the Raging Cajuns. So they'll just have the Purple and Gold World Series coming up in a couple of weeks, and that'll be a wrap on fall baseball. And we're getting closer. I saw a few of y'all out. Where was I this week? I was at it was last week when I was out at M&L Distributors, and saw some folks out there, and everybody was saying how fired up they are for baseball. I'm right there with you, I promise. But we'll get there. Got to get to February first, so let's get football into the rearview mirror and keep working into basketball before we get too deep into the weeds with baseball. Let's come back and chat some football. Denton Day, college football overtime on Sirius XM. Joins us every single Monday. He will do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. They're a certified Generac generator dealer. They are a premier Generac generator dealer. That means they're in the top 3% nationwide in Generac sales. You're never going to hear me when I talk about Boudreaux's Electrical talk about some club you need to join and pay more money so they can treat you right. That's not how they do business at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Everybody is treated like a VIP, from the first consultation where you decide what you're going to purchase to the installation, and then the service after that installation of your Generac home standby generator. They monitor it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when something fails, whether it's caused by malfunction with the equipment or it just gets knocked over, they'll know. They'll be monitoring it. They'll say, all right, let us come out and fix it, so that when you need that generator to power on, to power your home in the event of a power outage, they got you covered at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. You can give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. Or in their Gonzales location, which is 225 area code 393-89. I give you the easy way every day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com. BoudreauxElectrical.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday editions of the Hunt Palmer Show, always brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Shout out to our guy, Trey Beal. Always enjoy our conversations with Trey and appreciate him and the folks for being part of our Monday shows. Another part of our Monday shows, Denton Day, SiriusXM's college football overtime with us every single Monday. Denton, how we doing?
I'm doing good, Hunt. I imagine you guys might be feeling just a little bit different this weekend, but I personally I'm doing great. I made some money this weekend.
Football's canceled. We are on to basketball and baseball. I hate the sport. No, that's just how we felt on Saturday. It was a tough one in a rainy Tiger Stadium. Let's talk, speaking of disappointments, a little Sunday football before we get to the college football action. Tough spot for your Commanders yesterday, right there at the end. Jaden completes a pass on 4th down. They ruled, did not reach the line to gain. I thought he was going to go down and get the game winner. Didn't happen, though. What did you think about the spot that they gave you?
I hated the spot. I was with you. I thought he was going to march down the field and win the game. This was the first. I called it a bad loss, but bad has become relative because in previous years, bad losses are getting massacred on Monday Night Football, or the Bears, who are winless, getting up 20-0 in the first half of a Thursday night game. It wasn't bad. It was just a bad loss because you're now a good football team, and that was a game you definitely could have won and didn't win because of silly mistakes, drops, penalties, jumping offside, like all the little things, the fundamentals just weren't there. I thought he played okay. It wasn't his best game by far. I mean, his completion percentage was smack dab at 50, which is not good. That wasn't all him again. Like, there was a lot of drop passes, but he'll pick himself up. I trust him more than anyone.
He's quite good, and I think there's a bright future ahead, just even this year, for the Washington Commanders. We'll see if there's a bright future ahead for Alabama or LSU, but it was certainly all tied on Saturday night. What was your biggest takeaway from LSU and Alabama?
I was stunned at how there was no answer for Jalen Milroe, and then on top of that, the offense for LSU was non-existent. I mean, you guys knew this, so I'm not giving you anything you didn't know, but this was a big game for Brian Kelly. It's year number 3. I thought this was going to be a big win for them, and it just was the complete opposite. It looked like after the first couple of drives, they didn't really have a chance. So I was kind of disappointed with what I saw from LSU on both sides of the ball.
Can you explain why Jalen Milroe was running free all night against LSU but can't find the same success against Vanderbilt or South Carolina or anybody else, basically?
I could not. I was sitting there and I was like, surely LSU, that had 2 years of watching Jaden Daniels practice, has to have an answer of what to do with a quarterback that can use his legs. I mean, they struggled against Marcel Reed, Lenore Sellers, and now Jalen Milroe. I could not explain it. They had their quarterback not need to throw the football, and they nearly hung 50 on him. I was stunned in watching that. It was one of Jalen Milroe's best games really ever, and he didn't throw it hardly.
Do you think they're a threat to win the national championship or not?
No, I do not, because eventually someone's going to force him to throw, and that right now is where Jalen Milroe struggles the most. Obviously, I think he throws a pretty decent deep ball, but in terms of like some of the underneath stuff, if you need, a 7-yard out route with a man in your face, I don't know that he's there yet. But to be fair to him, I don't know that many guys in college football are there. It just kind of seems like a down year for quarterbacks. I don't think they're a threat. They might be able to win a game or two, but I don't know that you can expect him to do that 4 times.
Is Ole Miss a threat to win the national championship?
More of a threat just because I think their offense is a little more versatile. I was really surprised with the way that they not just beat Georgia, but the way they beat Georgia. Honestly, though, I think that says more about Georgia. I mean, Carson Beck has had some good performances, the second half against Bama. I'd say the whole game against Texas, outside of a couple of throws, he looked pretty decent, but I don't know what I saw this weekend from him. I mean, isn't it funny, Hunt, that like 3 months ago people were saying this guy's going to be a number 1 overall draft pick, and now look at him.
Yeah.
He was tough to watch. I mean, they're winning in spite of him, not because of him.
It was wild to watch Ole Miss physically beat Georgia the way they did, and then to watch Beck struggle continuously, just throwing the ball to the wrong team and just been completely inaccurate as well. Wild scene in the Holy Roar. BYU edges Utah. Utah's AD grabs the mic and says they got cheated out of the game, basically, and he doesn't want to be in the Big 12 anymore. What'd you take from that whole thing? One, BYU getting the win, and then the post game that ensued.
Generally I would say I would have loved to be in the room on Monday between him and his bosses, but I have a feeling there was this Zoom call on Sunday to be like, hey, buddy, maybe don't get in front of the public and say we don't want to be in this conference that's paying us a lot more money, because the only other option was a conference that is right now dead. We know it's going to come back, but would you rather be in the Big 12 or the Pac-12? I think you'll take the Big 12 because, by the way, your season didn't exactly go the way that you hoped it would. BYU just finds ways, man. I think they're kind of similar to Miami in the fact that eventually this luck is going to run out. But until it does, you might as well just enjoy the roller coaster while we have it. They're not a great team, but they're a good team. They're fun. And you knew this one was going to be tough just because of the nature of it. It's a 10:15 kick Eastern time. So, the madness happens very much that traditional Pac-12, or in this case, Big 12 after dark kind of a game. It was fun, if nothing else. I think BYU, when they get to the college football playoff or see Colorado in the Big 12 championship, that's when they'll get tested more than anything they'll see the rest of the year.
Yeah, you mentioned Colorado. They fall behind 13-0 in Lubbock, and you're like, okay, this is the game they're going to lose because they're not very good. And then all of a sudden, they score 41 to Texas Tech's 14 in the last 3 quarters, and they're 7-2 now. Do you believe?
I do believe. I believe that they're going to get to the Big 12 championship. And then once you get to your conference championship, you have a chance, right? That's all you want to give yourself. And if you're going to give me a chance with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, I will take that chance. So I'm a believer in Colorado. I just hope that those of us that are in positions of power in our industry handle it way better than we did a year and 3 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, that drove a lot of people nuts. I'm a little skeptical still of that whole thing, just because I think you're going to take a big step back when your son as the quarterback moves on and then the best player in the country moves on. But for right now, he's got those 2 guys, and they're playing really good football at the moment. Let's talk about Miami. They lose to Georgia Tech in a real clunker. 28-23 was the final there. Felt like they were going to pull it out of the fire again. They got the ball back, and Miami's done this 4 times already. They'll do it again, but they finally got tripped up. How big a deal was that?
It was a huge deal, but it was kind of a classic Mario Cristobal game. He gets, maybe more so than any good coach in college football, he gets in his head more than anything. He was being overly aggressive, I thought, in the fourth quarter. I mean, that 4th and 16, I understand the math. It's a 2-score game, and you're trying to get one. But a 4th and 16, for the love of all that's holy, man, just take the points. Just kick the field goal, build some momentum. Your defense held them on a 3-and-out literally the next drive. So I hated that. And then, Hunt, the death of me this entire season, I know the 2-minute timeout is weird and foreign in college football, but you have to have somebody that tells you how to use it, because these college coaches don't know how to do it. Cristobal wastes 20 seconds at the end of the game because he wants to keep all 3 of his timeouts for after the 2-minute timeout. That's not the way you're supposed to do it. You got to call those timeouts before that 2-minute timeout, squeeze as many plays as possible into as short of a time as possible. Instead, he wastes 20 seconds. Obviously, it didn't end up costing them the game because they made a bunch of other mistakes, but that's going to cost somebody in the college football playoff. You have 50 dudes on your staff. Hire some dorky nerd. If there's no one in Miami that's a nerd, if you give me enough money, I'll go to Miami and I can be the nerd for the next couple of weeks just to make sure you know how to use your timeouts properly.
Yeah, Cristobal is good in the old living room. I'm just not sure he's great on the sideline. But you get enough good players, it can mask some things from time to time. All right, let's move forward to this coming weekend. Tennessee at Georgia. feel like that game feels different today than it did on Friday after what we saw Ole Miss do to Georgia. How do you see that one in a top 10 showdown in Athens?
I mean, this feels like another playoff game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of feels like I don't know that Tennessee would be fully eliminated with a loss, but I know Georgia definitely is eliminated from the college football playoff with a loss, unless everything else goes haywire in the SEC the final 2 weeks and rivalry weekend just ends up being an absolute you-know-what kind of show. There's a lot of pressure on Georgia. I didn't think we'd get to a point this season where there'd be this kind of pressure on them, except for maybe in the second or third round of the playoffs. So we're going to look. I don't think highly of Carson Beck, as I've made it pretty clear. We're going to find a lot about him against Tennessee this weekend. If they lose this one, I don't know what it's like in Athens when things go bad because they haven't gone bad for such a long time, but we're going to find out if they lose because it's not going to be pretty.
No question about that. Do you think Oklahoma's going to move on from Brent Venables at some point?
Yes and no. Their biggest issue to me this year has been the quarterback. And I guess part of being a head coach at Oklahoma is you got to find a quarterback. But I do love the way they played on defense this year. I think just because they haven't had a quarterback, it's been rough to sustain it for an entire 60 minutes. They've been so good on defense. It's like if they had this kind of defense in one of those Lincoln Riley years, they probably win a national championship. So I think they give him a little more time, but certainly just kind of with the way that things go in the SEC, if you're in there for a couple of years and you're not winning, someone else can, or they're at least going to try. But, I wonder, honestly, and I'd actually like your thoughts on this. Do you think programs are going to be a little more cautious just based on the way that things have gone at, like, Florida and Nebraska and then Tennessee for a little bit? Because all these coaches weren't doing it the way that they were supposed to. Then they get fired, and then you're in a decade of misery. So I think they might be a little hesitant in Oklahoma.
I think everybody thinks they're going to be the next Georgia and they can get rid of Mark Richt and then boom, Kirby Smart shows up. I think that's the way people think, even though we know that's not the case. Yeah, that just doesn't. You can fire your way into mediocrity pretty quickly. So it's weird because they're in that transition where they were beaten up on the Big 12 and they show up in the SEC and it's a disaster. And there are a lot of factors there, but it's going to be interesting. Oklahoma's last regular season game is against LSU, so that's something we'll see up close and personal here in 3 weeks. Last one here before we get you out of here. Appreciate your time. Who's going to win the Heisman?
It should be Travis Hunter. It should be Travis Hunter. I think he's the best player in college football. It's so weird because the stats maybe aren't eye-popping, but there's not really a statistical way to quantify everything that he's done, and because there's not a great slew of quarterbacks across the nation, it's going to be Travis Hunter. I would have loved it if Ashton Jenney out of Boise State would have been a real contender. I think he'll be in New York, certainly. But if you're looking at like his numbers and the amount of games they have left, a running back is only winning if you break Barry's record or come really stinking close. And unless he goes for like 600 yards this weekend, he's probably not going to be all that close. He's had good games the past few weeks, but much more human games to running back. So I think it's going to be Travis Hunter.
Appreciate your time, Denton. We'll talk next week.
Hunter, appreciate it as always, man. Thank you.
He's Denton Day, SiriusXM College Football Overtime after the games go final on Saturday. You can find him on SiriusXM Radio. Becky, we've been talking on Tuesdays, and I'm not going to do any more because LSU's out of the mix, about how like nobody around the country is stubbing their toes in the way that the SEC teams are. And you figured it was going to happen. And as you look around the country on Saturday, you were just locked in on LSU and Bama. Well, you wouldn't have seen that it's starting to happen. Iowa State picked up their second loss. They lost to Kansas. Pittsburgh has now lost 2 in a row. They lost to SMU and they lost to Virginia. So they've got that second loss. Clemson got beat by Louisville last week and barely eked by Virginia Tech. Like, teams are starting to pick themselves
Miami
off.
lost.
Miami lost as well. That was another one that I don't want to get to. It is starting to happen. You're just not in position to capitalize on it anymore because you stubbed your toe against USC. But you knew it was coming, that all these teams weren't going to go 11-1 or 12-0, but it took a little longer than I think generally it does. And LSU, I mean, you start to look at the situation LSU would be in had they been able to beat Alabama, you'd be in a really good spot. And all of a sudden, you're just really not. You weren't even competitive in the game on Saturday. So I just thought that was interesting, something that we won't focus on because we're so hyper-focused on LSU couldn't tackle Jalen Milroe and what's wrong with the program and everything's ruined. But the things that we thought were going to happen have eventually started to happen, and LSU just found itself in a bad spot there. So we'll come back and close things out here. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. Christmas around the corner. If you're thinking, what can I do? How about you get that home entertainment system put in? For a lot of people, a lot of different gifts. But make your movie watching experience way better, game watching experience way better. Audio Video Security Solutions knows how to come in. They can provide the television. They can mount your TV. They can install the speakers, get the surround sound working. They can do things that are simple. They can do things that are really difficult or complicated, like, hey, voice automation, fancy stuff. That's something you're interested in? Call Mitchell Fisher. Here's his cell phone, 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. Check him out at avssla.com or on Instagram, avss_BR. All your audio, all your video, all your security, whether it's business or at home, it's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Shout out to the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they got you covered at Gulf Coast Office Products. I tell you every single week, they've got enough resources, manpower to service your printing, scanning, copying needs wherever you may be in the state of Louisiana. But they're also not one of these big box stores. You're going to have a personal relationship with your rep. Their customer service is going to be fantastic. You give Trey a phone call, you're going to get an answer. You're not going to get some recorded message that may or may not get to somebody in Atlanta somewhere. Nope, right here in Louisiana, in the capital city. It's Gulf Coast Office Products, big enough to serve you, small enough that you'll feel served. Gulf Coast Office Products, gcopnet.com. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It back.
All right, first one here. Chance of rain, never. Take it or leave it.
Is it sacrilege to say leave it? I
agree with you.
I don't love that tradition. I'm not like, it doesn't like make my blood boil like the uniforms, but like it rains in Tiger Stadium all the time.
Yep, it does.
I've seen rain delays in Tiger Stadium. I've seen the Oregon State game was the worst rain I've ever seen. The South Carolina game in 2007 was brutal. And it was ugly on Saturday night. I said this in my open, but that was 2 hours ago. I don't know if there are a lot of people that are still listening that were here 2 hours ago, but the fans deserve a massive tip of the cap for Saturday night. That place was full. That place was loud. The 4 times the Tigers gave them something to cheer about. And that weather was terrible. Like, I was sitting in the press box looking at the rain like swirling as it came down. And I was like, man, and after halftime, LSU was down 21-6, looked bleak, and the weather was still terrible, and the fans were right in it. And so that was an awesome job by the Tiger Stadium faithful in bad conditions. I don't need the chance of rain, never thing, but if it makes people happy, fire away, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really care for it that much. I don't think it matters that much. I mean, I've been in plenty of games in Tiger Stadium where it rains, so to me, I don't really understand it. But if people want to say it, then
I was
go ahead.
telling Cassie, I actually ruined a cell phone when I was in college one time because I didn't have a poncho and I just stood there in the rain and my phone was in my pocket and it did not work after the game. So
that's all right.
R.I.P. to that phone. That was one of about 900 phones I lost or ruined in college. It was quite a run. I once jumped in a pool with the phone in my pocket. Of
course.
And I stood there. I was standing on the side of the pool. It was in University View, right down there. I was standing by the pool, probably drinking a Keystone Light. And like probably 8 minutes after I'd been in the pool, it started buzzing in my pocket. I went, oh, that's not good. That thing was toast. I also, you're supposed to put your phone in rice or whatever.
Yep.
Somebody told me to put it in the oven once.
Oh.
And I didn't get any guidance on what temperature or whatever. And I put a phone in the oven and it melted.
I'm not gonna lie, hon. You didn't seem like the smartest individual in college.
I wasn't then. I'm not now. It
I
just
guess
is
that's
what
fair.
it is.
You
got to work with what you got. And it's not very much, but here we are.
All right, next one here. Omar Bradley the Tiger. Take it or leave it.
Omar Bradley. I'm going to leave it. As I said on Friday, I don't need a live Tiger. For those that weren't there, as the band was getting ready, they wheeled this truck out with the big cage, and it stood right there behind the LSU sideline.
It was really more like a glass box,
Yeah,
really.
the band went and did its pregame and touchdown thing, and then they rolled the Tiger out. It was out there for 7 minutes. They did one little video about the tradition and bailed on it. To me, this is just me talking whatever. It didn't matter for the game or not, but the fact that there was brain power put together to make that happen for 6 minutes is a little much to me. It was a complete nothing burger. So I don't know why we were doing that, but it doesn't. Whatever.
All right, next one here. Warner Brothers is selling 10 fully functional but not street legal Tumbler Batmobiles from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight film trilogy. Each is priced at $3 million. You got a couple million lying around. Go buy a Tumbler. Take it or leave it.
So it's a car that.
You've seen The Dark Knight, correct?
Yes, I have.
You remember the Batmobile?
The Batmobile, I got that, but this is a full-size vehicle.
Yes.
Does it go?
It's functional.
But you can't bring it on the street.
Well, it's not street legal, no, but it's fully
what
functional.
do you do with it?
I guess you could drive it around and maybe if you have a lot of land or something, I don't know.
Out in the field, take the Batmobile through the cornfield.
Your private residences, you know.
I'm gonna leave this one.
No?
I don't need a Batmobile. Does it have the weaponry that the Batmobile comes with?
I think that's probably not gonna happen. Yeah.
Does it have the deal where the wheels come out?
Yeah, and then maybe I don't know if they have it where you can turn into the motorcycle as well. I'm not sure.
He ejects and just uses the motorcycle. Those huge tires.
Two tires. Yeah.
That's a great movie.
I
don't need a Batmobile, though.
I mean, look,
leave it.
I've already told my friends we got to pool our resources together. We can get one of these things.
Just take a loan out.
That's true. Yes, take a loan. Easy.
Get one of those 13% loans.
It's just a classic, classic American dream, right? Take a loan out and just declare bankruptcy later.
Get the Batmobile.
Get the Batmobile. The American dream hunt. Last one.
I saw something somewhere. Maybe it was a Dave Ramsey thing that a lot of people are taking out loans to go to Disney World.
Oh.
I just don't know if that's the best decision.
Probably not.
You want to go to see the big mouse far away. I'm just not sure that borrowing money to do it's the best way.
No, I would agree with you there. But last one here, Tiger Stadium drone show. Take it or leave it.
I missed it. I never saw it.
I didn't see it either.
I saw a video of it, but I never saw when that happened. You were able to do it because it was dark at kickoff, so I think it was pregame, and I'm a little late to the press box because for when they say the game's at 6:30, it's really at like 6:42
or 6:50 almost.
So Chris wants me to go to like 6:15 on pregame outside the stadium, so then I have to go in, get in the elevator, go up. So I probably didn't get to my seat until like 6:32, 6:34.
I think it was supposed to be at halftime too. They maybe moved it up because of the weather. I think, but I'm not sure about it.
I'll take it because the video looked cool.
I'll take it.
But I never saw it, so I can't. I saw Omar the Tiger.
Cassie, did you see it?
Yeah, it was during halftime.
Oh,
okay. It was really cool. Well, okay, I saw it on the big screen, but like I was in the student section, so because the scoreboard is so good,
yes,
and so big, I couldn't like turn around and actually see it.
Okay.
But like they had like, they went in like shapes because the halftime show was like about like the Marines and everything.
Oh yeah, for Veterans
They had
Day.
like the shapes of all like the.
I saw that first, and to your early point about how I'm a moron who bakes phones and jumps in the pool. Who's smart enough to coordinate 65 drones into flying artwork? Who are these people?
They're smart, Hunt.
I just sit in this chair and swat flies off my computer and talk about football teams that get beat by 30. I'm out on the drone creation stuff. That's all I can do for today. I'll go type on a keyboard somewhere. I can figure that too. That's going to drive you home on After Further Review coming up next. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. You've been listening to a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, as always, presented by the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com. If I say EPL insurance, you know what I'm talking about? If I talked about D&O, you know what that is? Do you have any idea what your umbrella limit needs to be? What are your auto limits? These are all questions that you're not certain of and you're a business owner. Take the time to reach out to my friends at the Highland Insurance Group. They can walk you through your insurance program and make sure that you're covered, because the time to start pouring through those policies is not after the incident happens, not after the flood. It's not after the car accident. It's not after the hurricane. It's right now to make sure things are properly done. And you can trust Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group to make sure that happens for you. They're not a magic bullet. They're not just going to cut 25% off your premiums, but they can make sure that you are covered when that time comes. Whether it's property and casualty, also group or employee benefits, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you out with that. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can service you statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, highlandig.com.